Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today we're heading to Nashville, Tennessee, because I'm bringing you a five-time Diamond Elite level producer who leads a high-performing team at Compass and serves buyers and sellers across the Williamson-Davidson, Sumner, and Wilson counties. She's built a reputation on aggressive marketing, high-touch, highly personal process, and making sure clients are informed and confident at every step. No guessing, no confusion, just results. She's also deeply plugged into the Nashville community with leadership experience inside the Realtor Association, and she's raising her family right there in Brentwood. If you want to hear a real pro how builds lasting relationships while running a serious real estate operation, you're in the right place. Let's welcome to the show, Megan Jernigan.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Thank you. I will disclose everybody just because this is natural conversation. We're just talking here. We are re-recording, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
will. Of course, it's been a couple weeks since we recorded, so it's not like I
Yeah.
remembered everything. But we might bring up some new things and might go deeper on some of the things that you
Yep.
talked about. But we were just doing a pre-show. Obviously, I'm in the mortgage business. Megan's been in real estate for a long time, and we're talking about. Building relationships with your support vendors, whether it's a flooring operation, whether it's a mortgage company, whether it's a title company, and how important it can be. It can be for your team, for the leader to build some of these relationships. But then, what are the requirements? What's the expectation in the give and take thing? And because we know obviously we can't just give money referrals out. RESPA's involved there. So what are some of the things
Right.
that you do, Megan? Or do you have a couple right now that you've been working for, say, for years? And how did that relationship come about? And then what are some of the expectations that have built over time?
Yeah. As far as all vendors, right?
Hmm.
All
Well, these vendors
relationships.
that you've been working with, I mean, obviously, as time's
Yeah.
gone on, you're like, hey, I'm getting regular business from Megan. I can help
Yeah.
her out over here. What are some of the things they're doing for you and your team?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I have always leaned on the side of like, if there's a discount to be given or something to take off the price that you think that you want to give to me in a gift card or something like that or a W-4, I just say no thank you and I just say pass along whatever discount to my client and my customer. I think that's an easier line to draw in the sand than have my clients ever question, oh, did she get something for that? Or does she refer this person because they do this for her? And I never want that to be like, I'm not going to use your condo down in Florida. Like, I'm not going to use, I'm just not going to. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you offer me, I'm not going to. I think it's just an easier line in the sand. And I think that it's just an easier way for me to also know that I'm choosing vendors because of they give the same service and they give the same rates and they're competitive and they respond quickly and they have a great product versus someone that I feel tied to either financially or how whatever else they give big birthday gifts, whatever it is,
Right.
because that's just easier. So vendor wise, I'm like, if you answer, you are responsive to my clients, you are respectful to my clients. Lender wise, it's same with like home inspectors and things like that. Like if you have the products we need, Nashville's a big healthcare town. So we have a lot of healthcare here. If you can do a lot of physician loans and nurse loans and doctor loans and all of that, if in we do a lot with like C suites of like media companies and CEOs and stuff like that. And if you have professional products that can help them get a lower rate for having a certain income,
Right.
just I need people that can get creative. And like I was telling you pre-show, like a lender we do a lot of volume. We do probably 120 transactions a year, and that's a lot. So I get calls all the time from home inspectors, painters, title companies, like, because we're a big account to people.
Hmm.
But if I call you, like if I call my title attorney at 9:30 p.m., he knows I'm on fire. Like he knows there is a fire. He grabs his computer, he puts his kids to bed and he calls me back. So I'm not calling because I have an easy day. I called a close lender we work with at 10:30 on Sunday morning. Again, I had a fire, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not calling you at these odd hours to chit chat. I'm calling you because we have a fire. And that's where like I need immediate action and immediate answer. And you'll be gone. You'll
Yeah.
be gone if you can't perform just because it's just what's best for my clients. And that's my job is to steer them, you know?
What are some of
Not
the
steer them, we don't steer. Those are bad words, right?
yeah,
To guide them
exactly.
in a way to
Right.
guide them in a way that it gets them the result they want.
Well, you have you have this fine line of you want to guide them to people who you know are going to get results because you want the transaction to go
Right.
smoothly, makes you look better, that makes them feel better, the whole kind of thing. And I agree with you. Instead of which I see out here, in our space a lot. It is
Right.
how much you're going to pay me. How much
Oh, yeah.
you're signing a marketing agreement before they
Isn't
even
that
sent you a
crazy?
deal. It's like
Yeah,
no, send me. Let's do some deals together. Make sure we work together good. There's some
exactly.
agents that I know. I tolerate a lot because I mean I have thick skin. There's some people that they don't want to deal with some agents throwing
Yeah,
in business because it's just miserable for 30 days, because the
sure.
agent is miserable. But I
Well,
agree with you. Instead of giving me $100 gift card or buying me a Christmas gift, tell the client, hey, here is Megan's discount. You're buying this flooring, and we're going to
yes,
include this because you're a customer of Megan, and
right.
that goes a lot further than that $100 gift
Yes.
card.
Yeah, like our mover that we've used he's moved me personally 3 times. Like, but he gives our clients 10% off. And I'm like, "Great, pass that along to them. That's great. That makes them
Yeah.
feel good. I feel good. Everyone feels good," you know?
Yep. Well, because the bottom line is that little gesture could be another deal, could be 10 more deals. Who
Yeah.
knows over the next couple of years? We don't know. We're just
Yeah.
for them just saying, hey, we're going to give you 10% off because you're one of Megan's customers.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
And I always say, I'm like, "Say you're with us, because 'cause they'll answer you first," you know? Like my painter, I'm like, "Tell Jose you're with us, and he will get to you, he will put you at the front of the line." And that's what I
yes,
need,
yes.
is to get to the front of the line. I don't need your discount, or your birthday gift.
100, yeah, 100%. That's more important. Especially when we're trying to close deals and they need a fast closing. And
Oh, yeah.
we need someone's going to move us up. I know two men in a truck here in town. They do
Yes.
exactly that. When they have their regular referral partners, that they immediately have got their best people on it. They're immediately
Right,
prioritizing that move because everybody
right.
wants to move on a Saturday or whatever it is. Yeah. All
Yep.
right. Tell us a little bit about Megan getting started. You went to the University of Tennessee. We know,
Yeah.
as we talked before, you're Peyton Manning all the way through. Tell us a little
SEC
bit.
girl.
Yep. What were you doing prior to real estate? What led you to real estate? Just so the agents that are listening here can resonate because everyone's pretty much come from somewhere.
Absolutely. I think it's so silly that we ask an 18-year-old to, like, make their life choices, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, your parents probably told you to be a doctor, an attorney, something like that, right?
Right.
It's like we all had to fit into these buckets because that's the way that generation. So, when I went to college, it took me 5 years to get out because I just switched it up. I kept switching it up, and then I kept having to extend school. But eventually I was like, "Okay, I wanna do something in communications, public relations, marketing, and I wanted to be like the Devil Wears Prada public relations agency, right? Like fancy, let's work for the fancy big clients. And that was how the PR school went. Was we did all these campaigns, and our PR part of Tennessee was like one of the top in the state. It's a wonderful PR school. But then you get out, and I got out during the recession. I got out in 2008, and it was tough, right? Because everybody was cutting marketing first, they were cutting PR first, they were cutting everything because
Yep.
it was the recession. And so I worked at a wedding dress shop and got paid commission and worked weekends, and I worked nights, and I worked all the hours that nobody wants to work. And I had no life as a 21-year-old. And but it was fun. I lived in St. Louis, Missouri. I had girlfriends there, and we just hung out. And but then it was time to come back, and it was time to get a corporate job. So I worked for 2 really big corporations. I worked for Tennessee Valley Authority. Tennessee Valley Authority it's actually a federal agency. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
largest power distributors in the country.
Yep.
And then I worked for Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. And both of those gave me great access almost immediately to the higher up. So I did strategy at TVA for energy efficiency. And then I went to Vanderbilt and worked with, again, federal agencies, the CDC and the NIH, doing vaccine research findings for children. So immediately I just knew I wanted to like do big things and have a big presence. What you hit with those institutions is you hit glass ceilings, you hit, and not because I'm a woman, because you got to ask HR, you got to ask the program head, you got to ask the CEO. And so to get funding or a raise or vacation days or,
Yeah.
efficiencies, you have to have a lot of permissions. And I was like, this is a
Mhm.
little bit silly to have to just ask to be more efficient, right?
Right.
And so I was just kind of looking around, and I had this mentor, and he's a realtor. He owns his own real estate company to this day. He was great, and he was like, "You should get into real estate." And I just thought, I'm not risky enough for that. I was not married. It was just me. I was like, if I fail, I have no one to pay my rent. I have no one to pay anything. And so I kind of entered it with like a you can't fail mentality. And if I was to fail, then I would be homeless, right? I couldn't pay any bills. I couldn't do anything.
No kids or
So
anything at this time, though. It is just you.
no kids, no
Okay.
kids. So that was a little bit less, right? Like
Right.
if I failed, I didn't have kids in the background starving. I didn't
Right.
have a husband that was starving. So it was just me. But if I failed, I was like, okay, that's fine. But I just was kind of like, okay, I'm just not going to fail. I'll just work hard enough to not fail, right?
Right.
I did stay at Vanderbilt for a while I did real estate, and just kind of built up enough transactions, enough closings that I felt good about making the jump. And then 18 months later, I just went full into real estate and just said, we're on the train, let's go.
What this hasn't come up actually in a while. Is you made me just think about that in your last statement. What was your family's? Were they supportive? Or they like, oh, Megan, you got that good corporate job. You got your benefits. I mean, what was their attitude towards this migration?
Very great question.
Mm.
My dad is a lieutenant colonel in the army. He's a tough man.
Mhm.
Um, and he has this view. I bet it's your wife. She's the only one that can get through, right?
No, I forgot to put it on.
Oh, I remember that from the last
But
time.
that's all right.
Only your wife gets through. So he has this vision for his children to be certain things and do certain things. So he was like, "You're insane. Vanderbilt's the gold star," because it was back in the early 2000s. My aunt worked at Vanderbilt too. Both of my aunts worked at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was the gold star. So he was like, "You're insane. You need to stay at Vanderbilt." And he was not into the idea. My mom is very much like me. She's a big dreamer. She's a business manager here in town. She has been for 30 years. And so she was like, I see the risk, but I also think you can do this and I support you. And
Mhm.
she was the first call when I passed my test, and she sent me wine when I had my first closing, and she's still one of my biggest cheerleaders. And now my dad's flipped the script too, right? Like he's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're successful. It's been 13
He's gonna
years.
see if
Like
you're gonna stick with it or not.
yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
just yeah, he's like, "Okay, you got it figured out, like,
Yeah.
you're good." But at first, it is funny how your parents, you know,
Well, they
they
want to they
just
want to protect you, but how old were you at this time?
almost 30 years old, Tracy. Like, I
Okay.
wasn't young,
Well,
but I hear you. But I think
yeah.
that's just
Well,
parents. I think
if
you have 2 different types of
23,
parents.
that's real easy. 30, they're like, hey, are you gonna get married?
I know,
Right.
I know. But I'm a middle child, Tracy. That's a whole nother therapy
Yeah,
conversation.
that's the
So,
therapy session.
I'm a middle child, and I just don't follow the train track like you
Mhm.
should, you know?
Let's go because this is something I'm working on. As I told you, I'm writing. I'm actually,
Yeah.
in. I have my open house book, but I was chatting my grit book about the agents of actually talking to agents with true grit, and
Yes.
which a lot it's not hard really after talking to so many of the top agents. There is a level of grit that all of us have, and you said
Yeah.
something that I think is very important. Even though it's not like you were still single. Mom and dad's probably still had a room for you to go lay your head down if you didn't have anywhere else to go. They probably had your back from that standpoint. But you said I was going with failure was not an option is what you if I
Right.
didn't quote you correctly directly there. Failure was not an option. You were going to do this, and you were going to do everything you could to be successful. Did you what did you know about real estate? Obviously, you're highly experienced now, a dozen years in plus, and have a team and everything else. You've seen a lot of things. Now it's like riding a bike, but back then, to be able to make that command like failure is not an option, you must have saw far enough ahead to say, I can get there.
Mhm.
Did you have someone?
You know,
Did you talk
you
to
know,
somebody? To kind of give
I
you some.
didn't honestly have that vision, Tracy.
Mhm.
Like, I was talking to a women's group last week and with one of my good girlfriends that she does have that vision and she routinely sees 30,000 feet down. I get stuck
Mhm.
in the fishbowl a lot. I didn't. I just think with real estate and just in general, owning your own company, same with lending, I saw it as an opportunity to work as hard as you want to work or not as hard as you want to work. Like some agents just want to do 3 to 4 deals a year and that's absolutely okay, and see the result of that. And
Mhm.
so for me, I saw it just more as an opportunity. I knew I was a hard worker. I knew I don't take no for an answer. I know I'm great with critical conversations. I know I'm a great problem solver. And I just thought if I can just work 8 days a week for 26 hours a day for
Right.
long enough. And that's exactly what I did. And it just does take a minute to keep the ball rolling, and to get your snowball formed when, you're packing the ice out and it's falling out the sides. But that's the wonderful thing I think about this career is the sky truly is the limit. So I think I just knew enough about the career and about myself to know if I can just grind hard enough, I
Now,
will
did
get
you
there.
feel that up to this point in your life, everything you put your heart in a lot of times, just showing up is a big part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That you were somewhat successful. You're like, well, I've had success. I haven't, hit
Mhm.
the gold mine yet, but I've had success in. I've been really good at everything else I've done. I've learned how to do it and do it really well. That taking on this task, I'm 3 for 3 now. Why can't I be 4 for 4 and go after real estate?
Right. Yeah, I think that in a lot of real estate and just owning a company in general is who you're surrounded with and who you've already impressed upon, right? And
Right.
so I went back and the first thing I did was just start building my database. And if I called you and I was like, "Hey, it's Megan," and you didn't say who, then you went into my database. And so I used every single
You had
every
two
single
lines for
job.
that. The who's went over here, right?
Yeah, the Who's was like, "Oh, okay, I should reconnect in a thoughtful way before I put them on my database." But they went onto my spread, and we all worked in Excel back in 2014. But
Right.
I went back to every job I'd ever had. I didn't care what city you lived in. I am blessed that I'm from Nashville.
Hmm.
I went to Tennessee, like you said. A lot of my girlfriends came back with me. I was in a sorority. I was a Kappa Delta, so a lot of Kappa Deltas live here. Like a lot of Kappa Deltas are still in Knoxville that moved back here. So, and then I had those couple of corporate jobs before I was in real estate. So
Hmm.
I did have a foundation that I knew was fairly solid of people that knew me, liked me, trusted me. And I just had to expand upon that, right?
Right.
But I at least put my database together of people. I had their phone numbers, I had their home addresses, I had their emails, I had their birthdays, I had their wedding anniversaries. If they already owned a home, then I could find out their closing anniversary online. I could find out their address online because I have the database to do so.
Right.
If they didn't own a home, I would just text them and say, "Hey, I just got into real estate. I would love to put you on my list." And all of my friends were 28 at the time as well. And they were like, "Great. We don't know what that means. Sounds good to us." And they would just give me their address. And so I just built out this Excel sheet,
Right.
and then I just hammered everybody in a good way.
Did you find there still were some people kind of like your dad, like show me, and maybe didn't do business with you right away, but as the years went on, they're like, oh, Megan's doing it. She knows what she's doing. Maybe I'll now do business with you.
Yes, and I felt so I have something speaking of my dad, he didn't sell his house with me when he sold it. And I was so terribly upset about it. But looking back, after a critical conversation with him of like, "Hey dad, what the heck?"
Right.
He was like, "I just don't want you in my finances." And I was like, "Okay, that's that one, I wouldn't be in your finances. Sellers don't get in your finances,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
go make your money and move on. But he doesn't know what he doesn't know. But that opened my eyes a little bit now that I look back and I say, that's my job to make people comfortable with
Right.
me in their personal business, right? Like this, I am in your, just like you as a lender, like
Yeah.
getting through to someone's personal information, you have to have this like primary level of trust with them that you're like, I'm going to hold this close, especially when you're working with your friends and their families and their friends, and they want to make sure like, okay, I'm not telling Ellen that you guys you're up to your ears in debt, or like I'm not going to tell Ellen that your dad's giving you 200 grand for a down payment. Like they need you, they need that trust
Yeah.
to know that they can give you this information. And so I kind of took that learning experience as like, okay, he didn't question my abilities. He didn't trust me with the baseline of financial information that
Well, it
I
wasn't
needed to
really trust. That's more just your family relationship.
Yes.
He could have told you what
Once
I'm going to
again,
tell you
we could
right
go
now,
to therapy,
if you don't know
Tracy.
your parents' financials and they're north of 60 years old, you need to get in there and know.
Right, right.
I'm seeing it left and right now at my age,
Sure.
where of course my parents are in their 80s, and then I got my in-laws. Fortunately, we have all four of them still with us, and their health is starting to decline, this and that, memory, all this kind of other stuff. Who's going to pass first? And you do need to know that, but that's a
But
very
Tracy,
common.
pulling
Your
that
father's
out of
position was very
people.
common.
Oh, yeah, pulling that out of people, though, especially that generation of parent,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
their parents didn't talk about money, they didn't talk about money. We are now, I think this generation, I'm 40,
Hmm.
but I have small kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Like 3 and 5, I get their ages wrong all the time. They grow so fast. But now I talk to them about money all the time. And me and my
Yes.
husband are very intentional to say, this cost this and that cost that. And okay, you lost your thumb guard. That was $50. We have to replace it. That's 2 Lego sets, or we have to, you know what I
You,
mean?
you have
Like,
to give, yeah, they understand the value of money.
yeah, they have
Yeah.
to understand. And they have to, understand that we don't just swipe our card and get, so but that's a very that generation thing, right? Like no
Yes.
one discussed money. And now I think our generation is coming through and trying to break as many of that as possible. But again, I think it's a baseline. And
Right.
that's like, I was talking to somebody that doing my makeup. She was doing my makeup the other day about something, and she works with a company that I work with. She does the makeup for this media company. And we were talking about different clients. And I've got clients that I'm like begging for them to let me in, because I'm like, I can help you. Just let me in. Let me know your issues, and let me know your hangups, and let me know your anxieties. And I will point you in this direction that will take care of this issue. This won't even be an issue.
Right.
But then I have clients that are like, it's like pulling teeth,
Yes.
right? And I'm like, how much do we have down? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, okay, how much do you think you'll have? You know, what do we think like, what's our budget?
uh,
Like, what are your anxieties on the monthly payment? Like, and it's like pulling teeth. And I
yeah.
can't help you if you don't
Where they just tell you up front, and it's very important for people who are listening right now, and agents that are
yeah,
listening right now. You've got to have these conversations. I've got customers right
yeah,
now that told me they had all this money in a Bank of America checking account. Well, all of a sudden we're closing next week, and my processor's like, hold on a second, where did this money come from? Oh, where did that
right.
money come from?
Yeah,
So now we're having to chase around when they told us up front they had plenty enough money to down in their, the
right.
cash to close in a Bank of America checking account. Well, they drug their feet, kind of giving us that account. Now we
Yeah,
got it. Now we see all this money coming from different directions.
right.
Oh, now
I know.
we'll get them closed, but it's gonna put everybody on the midnight
Sure.
oils until we can get it pushed through.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or we had a seller last week that the buyer, everything was smooth, smooth, smooth. Everything was going great. Whatever. And all of a sudden it's 2 days before closing. And the buyer's like, hey, I didn't get my gift funds letter to the lender in time. And we were like, we weren't told about any gift funds. Like, what do you mean? And so then it was like, oh, and then I had to get my taxes submitted. I need the transcript from the IRS. So it delayed us 2 weeks. And when my seller was on a reverse 1031 exchange that has federal guideline
Yeah,
limitations
they're
to
on a timer. Yeah.
timeframes, that could be detrimental and cost my seller hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And let's not surprise. So Chase Bank sat on this loan for 30 days, and 2 days before they were like, oh, wait, we need transcripts. We need this, we need that. And we were like, well, what have you been doing? So that's where it's like, let us in, let me prep, let me go ahead and try to put the fires out. But yes,
Well,
that's
you threw a red flag, and I'm going to throw it out there since you
okay.
put it out
We're
there.
getting deep quick, Tracy.
If they start with Chase, they start with Bank of America, Wells
Yes.
Fargo,
Rocket Mortgage.
they cannot. Well, having formerly worked for Quicken, I know a lot of the people that are still there. So it's
Okay.
not Quicken became Rocket. I
Okay.
won't totally knock them.
Okay.
However, they have hired people in the last couple of years that are now sitting at home around the country. Thousands of people sitting at home. Versus when I got hired, we were in the call center and we
Yep.
had a training room and that kind of thing. When we're, so now you might have a loan officer who doesn't see any other loan officers who might not only been in the business 6 months for all you know, right?
Right.
But
Right.
Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo agents, you have to understand those companies have been scrutinized by the CFPB, lawsuits and everything. That's why when you go to closing, it's like signing a book because they got all
Right.
these extra legal documents in it.
All the
Stay
disclaimers.
away. Take Megan's recommendation for a
Yes.
lender or call
And
me.
also, I need to be able, luckily this lender, the bank was local, the branch was local.
Mhm.
So I sent my co-agent down there. I said, you go find him. And he is sitting in a desk in Franklin, Tennessee. And you get in your vehicle and you go sit in his office and you
Yeah.
ask him what's going on. Because we didn't know about the transcripts. We didn't know all this that came out.
Yeah.
But I will find you. We will find you because we need this. We need this to close for our seller,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that is
those processing centers for those big things. That guy's just originating, and the
yes.
processing is in something, and they just don't have the sense of urgency. They don't,
Right.
as a real estate agent or
Right.
just a local lender is going to have. I don't know if it was, I think it was you mentioned the local lender the last time. I don't know if
Well, they're also just so numb, right,
Yeah.
Tracy? Like when you don't see the person, you don't see the seller, and you do so many transactions a year. Cause I mean, they close hundreds of thousands of loans a year. They're
Mhm.
just kind of numb.
Yeah.
And so when you're like, hey, this is really going to impact my seller in a negative way. If we don't have this closed by this date, they hear that and they're like, don't care. Like I hear it 25 times a day. Do you know what I mean? Like so they're just numb. They don't have a person attached to it. They don't care. And so you just have to find a team and a tribe that cares. Like your inspector has to care, your flooring person has to care, your mover has to care, your lender has to care. Everybody has to care,
100%.
Everybody
100%.
has to care.
When did you feel you hit the groove? How long were you in the business where all of a sudden you're like, hey, I've got this.
Yeah.
We all, because we're month to month on our, commissions, how
Yep.
far, I don't know what your furthest closing out, but, you might have a closing in April right now, being the first week of March,
Yeah.
here, if anybody's listening, maybe you have a closing 30, 45, maybe 60 days out. Most people don't go that long, but maybe you do.
Mhm.
Every, whether it's me or you, or we both work 100% on commissions.
Mhm.
And, we only have so many deals in the pipeline at any one time. Obviously, we might be working with people, but you're like,
Right.
hey, when that deal closes on April 25th, I don't have anything going on in May yet.
Right.
And to where you start to get comfortable to realize how your cycle, your systems, you were on top of it. You had the confidence that, hey, I can make a living and do well at it. Now it started to probably open up your vision on the business.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tell Compass this for their recruiting too. I think year 3 is the year. You are a lot of realtors don't even make it past year 1. I think what's the pullout rate? It's
I know it's always about 80% don't ever renew. You never
like
know until it's renewal time.
87%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 87% of realtors don't make it past year 1. I think that number is really impactful, and enlightening. But for me, I think what I see over and over again, it was mine, but also a lot of agents. If you can get to year 3, you will quickly see if you are going to launch or you need to go find another job. Because year 3, you have your groove. You've hopefully done enough deals that you know how to start navigating. You've met enough agents where you're impactful with off markets and that whole side of the business, right? Or knowing this agent knows land. I've got a land deal. who can I call for some insight? So that's where year 3 is kind of the year that you're like, okay, I'm in or I'm out. And that's how it kind of was for us. So year 3, I was on a team for a year and a half, and the team just wasn't for me for several reasons. And so I hired an assistant right out of the gate. And and I was like, I'll just figure out how to pay her. I just, she trusted me, and knew that I would put her before my family. I pay all my staff before I pay myself. But she trusted me, and we just went out and we joined a firm, and we sold 68 houses that year.
Wow.
And just the two of us, and she didn't have a license, so she didn't do she did like listing paperwork prep, and she would list it on the MLS. Like she would do our monthly mailers, but she also was my mirror. Does that make sense? Like she wouldn't let me just walk away from a task and walk away from a day, and she was like, I need that list from you. Like, it's doctor's day, half of our clients are doctors. We have this mailer, or we have this thing going out to them. I need this list from you. And she was my mirror, right? That I never forgot to do anything. She never let me put anything down. And so I think she's a big reason why our
Accountability partner,
company,
sounds like she's not
100%.
only your assistant, she was an accountability partner.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's still my accountability partner. Like and she manages up every single day, and I let her manage up. I'm like, girl, you tell me what we're failing on, she'll tell me all the time. She's like, you're too forgiving. You're too this, you're too that. And she's really critical of me. And I appreciate that, because I think a lot of people just see the pretty side of Instagram, and I got a text at 7:30 this morning from another agent. She was like, I just want to tell you, I'm super impressed by you. But we hear that all the time, right? Like, I saw your numbers last year, and I just want to tell you, I just like, that's goals, right? But she's critical of me. She's like, you're too this, you're too that. Like, hey, this is what I would change. And I lean on her for that. But year 3 was kind of the year we did 20 million, which back in the day when Nashville was $200,000, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And we did
2016, 17, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And now like the average price point's $1 million. So that's not as impressive. But yeah. So year 3 was kind of our year that I was like, okay, if we can keep our systems up, if we can keep our processes up, if we can keep ourselves accountable, and we can not, like you said, like I call it the like realtor roller coaster. And same thing for lenders. Anybody that owns a small company is like, I never want to get where I don't have a closing next week. Like, if we have 100 closings a year, like that's 2 closings a week. I need 2 to 3 closings a week.
Right.
And that's where we are. But to do that, you have to stay in front of people. You have to continue to market. So if it's just you, that's fine, but you have to be very disciplined, and you have to, like, you're up here on the roller coaster and you have a couple closings, but you have to make it through inspections. You have to make it through the appraisal. You have to get the lending stuff. You have to get their closing gift. And all of a sudden you haven't done your marketing. So the next month you're down, right? You're in the bottom of the curve. So then you're like, oh shoot, I've got to do all this. I don't have any closings on the books. I don't have any clients in the pipeline. So you start to do your marketing or reach out. Then you get your closings because you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then that's what I say. Like, and day 1 of my career, I was like, that roller coaster makes my anxiety shoot through the roof. I will not live like that. Right.
You made me think there, and I don't know if I've ever thought about this, or if I have only one time. And I'm thinking, I don't think people realize how the agent, which is the pinnacle of the transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm reporting to you, any other vendor, inspectors are all reporting through you. You're running the show. You're making things happen. You're running out there and showing the house, or running an open house, or
right.
There's a lot of things going on, even before and then after. Obviously, the contract is done, and then you're carrying it, to the goal line. You got all this stuff going on, and you can get caught up in that process and not be doing, like you said, the things to get the next deal done. And you go, hey, I got a couple deals. I'm running all over the place, chicken head cut off. And then I don't know of any other sales position where the salesperson is so involved in the actual
start to finish,
start to finish, and that you are doing all these other things. You got to get the one you got in hand closed, but you also got to be working on the next fish to catch.
Right.
And that process, which brought me to a thought. It sounds like, from what you're describing, I don't think we talked about this when we initially talked. This assistant person, that you guys obviously have a rapport. She can tell you like it is, and
Mhm.
you're not getting your all wound up
Nope,
about it. You're
not in my
taking
feels
it
about
as
it.
direct criticism and
Yep,
analyzing that it's probably true. In it is true.
probably is. Yeah.
That kind of, some people, that's a lot of egos involved, right? So you
Yeah,
got to have that
I tell
open.
people all the time, I'm like, "I have no ego. You will not hurt my feelings. Like,
Right.
hand it to me," you know?
Well, I saw something online. They said something about the friends who like, um, you know, I guess razz each other. That could say certain things to each other.
Yeah,
Are the best friends. That can really
yeah,
just throw it out there. Hey, you're being a jerk today, or whatever.
sure,
Those are
sure.
the best friends. And to get your team to where it is, you had to start building that with a foundation. And it sounds like you and your assistant here are the foundation, and she's still with you today.
Yep.
And
10
and
years.
how you guys were working with each other, and the others come into that culture and they see how the two of you are calling each other out when you need to be called out, and
Mhm.
or making sure, reminding each other, hey, don't fumble the ball, we got to do this today,
Right.
we got to get that done today, don't forget we got this. It's very important in starting to build a strong, in this case, a real
Yep,
estate team.
yep. Any kind of strong company, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just have to have the right people on the bus is what we say, the Energy Bus book. I don't know if you've read that, but I had the whole team read it a couple weeks ago, and it just is talking about getting the right people on the bus. And if they're
Mm-hmm.
not willing to get on the bus and they're not willing to function how you need them to function and they're not willing to rise up, then that's okay. They just don't belong on your bus. And I know it
Yeah.
sounds like really corny and cheesy, but it's true. A couple of years ago, like my first agent I hired, she got the best training of everybody because I had no kids. I was newly married. I had nothing but time. She sat in the car with me for a full year and heard every conversation. She was with every buyer, every seller. She got the best training. Well, she was with me for 6 years. And, through those 6 years, we brought on more agents. We let go of those agents. Those, agents moved on to other stuff and they weren't a right fit, whatever it was. But, it eventually came to kind of the smaller group of agents and it just wasn't working anymore. Like
Right.
I had a bigger, different vision for the team and I was pulling people up out of the ocean onto the sand. And I was like, I don't want to keep pulling people up onto the sand. I want you to walk out of the ocean
Yeah.
onto the sand because you have the right tools and you have the right team. And if I'm continuing to pull people up, I can't go do the rest of my jobs, right?
That's a lot of energy. It drains
It's
you.
a lot of energy, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of energy to go back and forth and be like, "Okay, you're on a PIP now," or like this, "Why didn't you answer this client for 2 days?" And you know what I mean? It's just a lot. And so, we got rid of everybody. We cleaned house and started over, and now we have a very high standard of who's invited to be on the bus. And then you gotta stay on the bus, right?
Expand a little bit about that, because I think a lot of agents, and maybe they've reached this third year, they're going, and I see some people team up, and I'm like, ooh, let's see,
Yeah.
are they
Yeah.
good on the bus together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Truly.
you had to go through some trial and error. You had some sort of bad apples, if you want to call them that,
Mhm.
or some too rowdy people on the bus that disturbed the bus that you kind of had to ask
Mhm.
them to leave. Talk about your experience there, in what are some of the things that someone who may be thinking about, hey, I want a team, or maybe just two or three agents, type of thing, just some of the things you need to go through the thought process
Yeah.
before choosing who those people might be.
Right. The first thing I do when people come and they say, I want to start a team, and this was really big at Compass. Compass came to Nashville. They expanded to Nashville in 2018. So I was a really early adopter. I was the 17th agent at Compass Nashville. And so at Compass the reason I joined this firm was because I was with a small town brokerage. And I was like, okay, if I'm looking at what people are doing in town and I'm trying to mimic that, I'm already behind, right? Like they've already figured it out. I'm behind on the bus. I don't want to be behind on the bus. So I want the opportunity to call Colorado and say, y'all are really great in the luxury market. What are you doing for marketing? How are you standing out? Right.
Right.
Like, I want to call the West Coast and say, you have a lot of people, Seattle, for instance. I had a development And I wanted to, and we have Amazon was moving their headquarters to Tennessee. And I wanted to call our Seattle office and say, you are moving because Seattle's old headquarters is in Seattle, or Amazon's old headquarters is in Seattle. I wanted to call and say, you have people moving here. How can we connect these dots? Like, so that's what I wanted, was to like dream bigger and have a firm that I could dream bigger with and that would dream bigger with me. And that has been the Compass way. Well, Compass also is really big on growth and team. And because you grow, you do form these teams. So just inadvertently, that's why I had it, right? Like I could have lived with me and my assistant for the rest of my life. Like we function well together, we do well together, but eventually I can only physically close so many homes a year, right? Like I can only spend so much
68's a
time in the
lot.
car.
That's
68 was a lot.
yeah.
And then by the time you get home from traveling to all these showings and listing appointments and all that, I got to come home and I got to do my admin. I got to follow up to all that. I got to write the offers. I got to submit the stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's so much more than just opening a door or going to see a client. There's so much more that happens after that. So I was working till 11 o'clock at night. I was working every single weekend. I just was like, this is not sustainable. Let me bring on an agent. So that's kind of how we grew. And then when that agent got overloaded, we grew again. I added more. When that agent got so, and I looked ahead to our pipeline and what I thought we could do. And then I would add agents accordingly, right? And so when an agent wants to start a team, I always ask them why. If it is to get time back, you might or might not. Let's decide how that's going to go, right? If it's because you have these dreams of grandeur, but you don't have any processes in place, you don't have a vision board, you don't have a track for them, everyone's going to flop, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to feel like a failure, and it's not going to work, right? There was an agent in Nashville, and for years I think she forced a team, and she would call me every time somebody would leave, and she would be so upset with herself and just, why can't I make this work? And then finally I was like, okay, tell me the goal. Tell me the goal of the team. Like my goal is, I'm really good at getting business. I also have two small children, like I said. So I want to see them on the nights and the weekends because life is too short, right? They grow too fast. And so I need bodies to help me facilitate my nights and weekends work. And that is my goal of the team. So I put in the extra time every day, every week, because I have 4 agents that call me all day, and that's wonderful. I love them. I have 2 staff that call me, and I have to put in that work so that I can get my nights and weekends with my babies. But if that's not your goal, and your goal is just to like have people and have this team, then I think we're reaching towards the wrong goal. But you have to have that foundation. They have to come in and say, like, this is our process. We have checklists for everything. We have 20 plus checklists. Like if you, from the moment you are assigned a buyer to the moment that buyer closes, you have a checklist. If a seller, the moment we get the call from the seller that they're thinking about listing, you have a checklist until they close. So there's a checklist for everything, and it's uploaded into their database. It's uploaded into their tracker. And if you don't start with a foundation of that and expectations of like, okay, these are your weekly tasks, there's just no way. There's just no way, because you have a train that's going like this, right? There's no tracks. It's just going haywire. So that's where I would say is like, get organized, find your why, and then decide if this is your track.
There was a couple things there, but one thing I just to kind of go on, Compass doesn't bring on green agents unless they're entering your team. Am I right?
Unless they're entering a team, you can
Yes,
bring on
they're
a green
entering a
agent if
team,
they're
so
entering a
they're
team.
not
Yep.
hiring green agents. So if you want to work with the quality of Compass, and obviously my wife's with Compass, so I know
Yeah.
a little bit about what she enjoys about it,
Yep.
and she's only been with them, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, something like that.
Mhm.
She's going out to 30A here in the
Yeah.
Panhandle. You
We
going
might
out?
do that. We might do that too. Tickets are
Yeah.
sold out, but we're on the wait list, but we might see her there.
Yeah, she's all excited because some of the other girls in the office they actually got a house, I guess
Yeah.
Airbnb or something like
It'll
that.
be great.
But to work with that level of,
Yes.
so if you're out there right now as an agent, and I want you to expand on this a little bit, Megan, if you're out there as an agent right now and you really don't feel you've got a grasp on the business, you
Yep.
need to be surrounded by some other people, and you're willing to obviously listen to them and then execute and relieve them, obviously, because they're getting busy. They're the only reason they're talking to you is hopefully you could show some houses or whatever. But if you want to mix and mingle with those people that around you, and go to a level of Compass, what should be their expectations? What are you looking for in that agent that comes to you today? Now with 12 years experience, you had
Mhm.
some, let's just say some growing pains as any team does, but now your team's grooving. As someone comes to you, what are some of the things you're asking them or looking for in them to whether or not they're going to be a good fit to your team?
Yeah. And that's where to say yes to growing pains, but also I don't even categorize them as growing pains. I just say we're allowed to grow. You're allowed to grow and pivot the way that your business functions, the way that and you do that with the market, you do that with your life, you do that with, okay, this isn't working. Can we do this instead? So I don't even see them as growing pains. I just need people that can pivot with me. And to be the point of the energy bus, like you want people, you on the right people on your bus, but I also look in the mirror a lot and I say, I want to be the driver that people want to get on my bus.
Mm-hmm.
So I will never ask you to do something that I have either not done, I'm still doing. And I would never ask you to like that's it. Like if I haven't done it or I'm not still doing it, I always lead by example. I will always outwork everyone on my team. If you are working harder than me, I don't like that. And I've never met someone on my team that has worked harder. And that's fine. That's my job. That's my job as the CEO, right? And as the team lead. And so that's where now I need people that can pivot, because if you can't pivot, you're obviously not going to do well in this career anyway. So, like, for instance, back when I started a team, it was kind of the trend to have separate agents for each transaction. So you would
Buyers.
have lists, yes, you would either handle sellers or you would handle buyers. It's not always feasible. That's not always a feasible way to go. And so if I would, my best girlfriends in town, maybe they don't want to be passed off to one of my agents. Maybe they just want to work with me, and that's okay. And then maybe a listing is better for you to manage that listing because maybe it's in your neighborhood, and maybe like maybe you're the one that's going to be best for that listing. So that's where we pivoted from having these agents that were in these certain buckets to everybody kind of does everything. And I now find the best agent for that specific person, that specific house. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer or a seller. So when I have agents in the past that have not been willing to pivot with me, that is when it's like, okay, I can't have you drag me into the ocean.
Right.
I have to be able to grow this team that I see the future of this industry or the future of the next couple of years, because I'm always talking to lenders and title companies and what's going down the pipeline and what's the federal government doing and
Mm-hmm.
how is that going to impact our career. So I need that trust from my team members to say, okay, you've got your finger on the pulse. We trust you. Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for the insight. Let's go. Like, we're buckling our seatbelt. So agents now, I need them to be very process oriented. I think we said this last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need you to be incredibly organized. I want to see your calendar. I want to sit in that interview and I want you to pull up your phone and I want you to show me how you organize your day. And if you can't show me a well organized calendar of where you are, where your spouse is, what's next, that's my bad babies. Then you're probably not going to be a good fit for our team, because we are incredibly organized. We are highly process driven, and that doesn't work for everybody. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really big thing for me. And then the team playerness of it. Like, there was a huge snowstorm about a couple of months ago here, and it knocked out power for weeks for people, for over 500,000 people, Tracy. It was devastating. My agents that did not have power were driving around to our clients' houses that were gone, that were vacant listings or whatever they were. And they were checking on their pipes. They were checking on their air. They were making sure they didn't have, like, they were turning the water off or whatever it was. They were doing the thermostats, and they didn't have power, Tracy. That's the level of service heart that I need on this team, because we're going to do the same thing at the same time. Like, I'm going to drop what I'm doing because you're having a fire. I need you to do the same thing for our clients. So those are kind of our non-negotiables now. And I can quickly tell if someone's going to bring chaos or if they're going to follow the processes and the systems. And if they can't, then we just can't let them stay on the bus.
It sounds like obviously you want like-minded people.
Yes.
That's the way you think, and that's really the way the business. I mean, again, if you interviewed hundreds of top real estate agents, that's the mindset. You're going to do whatever you sign. You got an agreement. You're going to work with this buyer. You're going to work with this seller. Well, they're they're putting all in on you, and you got to give them all in. And
Right.
if you're not, don't have that mentality, you're going to find yourself battling internally. Let's talk about you mentioned, you talk to someone, you look at their phone. What should an agent, maybe they're not extremely busy. Maybe they got one deal in process right now. Obviously, they should be prospecting every day, and everybody does that a little bit different. But then there's some other times. What are some of the other things that they should be filling that calendar with to become a better real estate agent?
Yeah. What my agents do on a weekly basis is they go to what's called a broker open. So nationally, that's a open house just for realtors for us to preview. Sometimes they're asking for pricing. Sometimes it's just to meet other agents because there's so many deals that we get because the other side knows we are competent. We can do our job. We have great buyers. We have great sellers. We have a great team. And so they'd much rather work with us than work with this other agent that submitted an offer. Right. So I want
That's
my
very,
agents to have,
very important. And
yeah,
when I first started, obviously it was during, post-COVID slightly, where people were getting multiple offers. And the agents that are listening right now, this is really good advice. You got to get out and meet some of the other agents. So when they see your deal come across and versus someone they don't know, or maybe someone they don't like, they're like, oh,
yep,
you know what? I've met Sally. She's a really great person.
yes.
Hey, let's take that offer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I got an offer. I got 4 offers on a property last week. And it was a relocation. And for anybody online, you'll know how big of a pain relocations are. They are mounds of paperwork. It's not going to go exactly how a traditional sale is going to go. So I needed an agent on the other side that I knew was seasoned with relocation, or this was going to be a massive pain for me. And so I got 4 offers, and the agents that called me and said, what's the title company and where's the paperwork? And I'm like, please refer to the MLS. It's all online. And they immediately went to the bottom. I didn't care how good their offer was. I told my sellers, this is going to be painful. I don't recommend us working with them. And my sellers trust me, and they took it to heart. And so we chose a seasoned agent that knew how relocation worked. And so my agents they go to a broker open every week, and they're encouraged to go to the broker open in a market that they want to be in. Not that they're in, that they want to be in. If you want to be in the luxury market, I need you to go to a luxury broker open, meet those agents, see that inventory. So that's what we do a week. We go to one of those open houses.
I imagine new construction. You want to go to the new construction neighborhood, see what's going on, meet the site
That's
agents.
easy. Yeah, that's easy. Like just go see homes, because what happens is you're sitting at the table and you have this opportunity, and someone's like, oh, I really want to move to this school district, but I want to be in this price point. And if you can immediately speak to, in that price point, it's going to be a fixer upper. Are you okay with that? They're like, oh, she knows her stuff, right? Like she's been to this, or, hey, that's a really lofty budget here. Are you looking for a huge house or just a really nicely done quality home? And what amenities do you want? Oh, you want a tennis court? There's only 2 neighborhoods in Brentwood that have tennis courts in their neighborhoods. We're going to have to focus on those too, if that's a deal breaker to you. Right. To know those things off the cuff shows that person, oh, this person is really qualified.
Credibility right away.
I should give them at least a shot. Even if they hire their old agent, at least you got the interview. You can't get the job without getting the interview. So we go see a ton of homes. We go to broker opens, open houses. Again, do the open houses in the areas you want to be in. I know a lot of agents just want to pick them up where they can, and they think all open houses are the same. They're not. So pick them in the areas you want, because that's where you're going to find the buyers that you want. You're going to find You're going to know your data that you can bring. Maybe you're not there to sell the home. That's not what open houses are for. Very rarely do you get a buyer from an open house that is going to buy that home. Mostly it's to get buyers. And you want those buyers that are looking in that neighborhood that you're doing your open house in. So it's all of that strategy. It's prospecting in a thoughtful way, Tracy, right? Like, don't go have coffee with your best friend. That's not the coffee for the week, right? Unless your best friend is the head of a neurology clinic, like one of my best friends. And I call her all the time and I say, hey, I'm calling you on business, not friendship. And she's like, got it, putting that hat away, putting this hat on. And I'm like, how can my team collaborate with your clinic as you hire new neurologists to be the team that welcomes them to town? You know, our processes on relocation, you know, our processes on this. And that is, so making these intentional prospecting moments instead of just saying like, I checked the box. And that's where I think a lot of agents just check the box. And I can tell if you're checking the box, right? Like I can tell if you went to coffee with your best friend or you wrote a note to your mom and your grandma instead of writing it to a prospect, because we write several notes every week, right? So that's the impactful stuff that you really do just dig down and you just ask people to help you.
You were involved with the local board, or I imagine you probably are still at some level.
Yeah.
I don't think people who I don't know what percentage of agents get involved with their boards. There's probably some statistic on that.
It's small, I'm sure.
Yeah. What is you're down at? I imagine you're a little bit because you chose to go down there. We have one of the greatest. I call her Miss Real Estate, Patty Ketchum here in Florida. She's worked with NAR. She's on the appointed by the governor for the Florida Real Estate Commission and so forth. And she said her biggest regret was not. She went years without ever going to the board as a new agent, and I think she started off in mortgages originally, and the people she met by going down there, for agents getting in the business, how important it is to go take classes, go take that contract class several times by several different people, but participate in the importance of being part of the association. Or at least being present in the, necessarily jump on a board or whatever, which I'm sure you'll be recruited eventually if you show up at enough times. But
always.
The importance of that for agents. Yeah.
We love our association. I'm just kidding with the eye roll. But you will be asked to be on the board several times. There's just so much that goes into this job that I think the consumers don't realize, and how many ways we stop legislation that could hurt them and hurt their homeownership, how much we lobby to push legislation through that helps their property values or gets their flood insurance down lower, or, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And so like, I love our legislative board because I want to know what's happening in the government. I love government. That's what I would do if I didn't have this job. Even though my skin is not thick enough. You said you have thick skin. I don't have thick enough skin for government. But that I love the legislation piece of it. Like, what is the state of Tennessee doing? What is the federal government doing? What is Nashville doing? What is Williamson? We have really small counties here. So Nashville is like Davidson County. What's Davidson County doing? Well, last year they doubled property taxes. That was huge for affordability. When rates were already at an 8, and now you raise property taxes, you are lowering that buying power, and then people can't buy houses anymore, right? And I think the statistic years ago was for every house transaction, there is $60,000 of money pumped into the economy. And that's not in realtor commissions. That's in the title company, the movers, the painters, the stagers, the landscapers, everybody involved, the realtors, of course, but everybody involved. So if you have a housing market that slows, that's $60,000 per transaction that is not getting pumped back into the economy. It does make a difference for the everyday family. So I love to know that stuff on the front end and know like what I need to go to, and go ahead and call my sellers and my buyers and my clients and say like, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. Is this going to impact your timeline? Is this going to impact that you want to retire in 2 years and not have a mortgage, but you're going to have this huge property tax. Do you want to go buy in a different county with lower property? So I like to be involved in that stuff.
Yeah.
And then to your point, the education, you just can't get enough. Like, go get your staging accreditation so that you, as a starting out listing agent that can't afford staging for a seller, at least you have your staging accreditation that you can put on your business card, and you can go in with a 2-day trained eye and you can move some furniture pieces around to where the photos are going to look better. Like, what can you go do to build up your resume while you're also simultaneously getting new clients? Like, the world is your oyster. When my agents come to me and they're like, we have nothing to do, I'm like, then that's what you're putting out into the world. But I promise you, the more you do and the busier you are, the more it, like, the universe gives it to you. Right. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
Well, I mean, going down to the board and going to a class, you're going to meet other agents too. As we said earlier, it's important to know who you're working with around, and that is a place to go, hey, let me go down and meet some agents, and I'm going to get a education and maybe even a free lunch. Someone's going to come in and sponsor lunch or something like that.
Right? We love free lunch.
So those things are there, and keep it. You mentioned in all the information I got, you're known for aggressive marketing. What does that actually mean? And if you could expand it across, because like I said, I'm working on touching up my open house playbook, the Real Estate Excellence open house playbook. Some things that you do in the marketing for an open house. But what is the aggressive marketing that you speak of?
So I think there are 2 types of people, and the world needs different types of people. I always say this too. Like, everybody doesn't have to be this, like, I'm not aggressive, but this, like, hands-on, go out into the world. Like, you need people that sit at sales centers for new construction. You need people that, like, are great at the follow-up of the development, right? My take is always, I never want to sit back and expect people to come to me. So I never want to wait for my phone to ring for my next sale. I will be making 10 calls outbound, right? Like, my outbound always far exceeds my inbound. I never want to have a listing that I prep. I just sit it on the MLS and I wait for buyers to come to us. Like, I'm not the person that just sits and waits for good things to happen. We are fairly aggressive and thoughtful by design, that we get out there and we will find your buyers. We will find the people that are looking at your listings. We host open houses, but we do them in a thoughtful way. We don't just hold it open on a Sunday. And so that I think is where, especially this market, to go out and call the agents that sell a lot in that area. Do you have any buyers for this? How do you think it's priced? Let me get some feedback from you. Are you willing to walk through it? Like, if our listing isn't getting any foot traffic, I'll call my favorite agents in that area and I'll say, can you walk through it and give me some direct feedback? Because that's at least feedback, not from buyers, but from seasoned agents I can give to my sellers. They know I'm doing something, right?
That's a great point. I think, and I'm learning this because I listened to my wife talking, but you just mentioned something. There's people that really do well in certain subdivisions, and maybe just someone who referred you into that subdivision, you're like, okay, I'm going to go over and sell that house. To call the person who has sold the most units in there in the last year and say, hey, what's going on? Because I guarantee you, they may have a buyer already waiting, if it's a great subdivision, to go in there, and maybe the house you're going to list is the model they've been hoping that would come up, or be on the right street or whatever it is. And don't be intimidated because you're just going in and selling that one house, and Sally over here sold a dozen in that neighborhood in the last year. Sally understands that. You obviously, as you mature in this business. It is what it is. Someone's referred for whatever reason, a friend, I don't know. For all they know, it's your sister selling the house in that neighborhood, and she's only going to call you, and that's going to happen. To make that phone call, because those stats are out there. It's very easy. It's right at your fingertips, right?
Yeah, it's right. You just have to go get it, and you have to look through it. I was talking to an agent that's been doing it as long as I was, or as long as I have. And he was like, do you have a buyer for this neighborhood? And I was like, no, but what I would do is I would go pull everybody that has sold in that neighborhood in the last 2 years. And I would find the buyer's agents that had repeat sales, and I would call them and see who they have. And he was like, really great idea. And I was like, that's day 2 for me. Like, what do you mean great idea? Like, that's just the innate, easy, our buyer wants to be in a certain subdivision, we're going to go look at the expired and withdrawn listings day 2, right? Like,
Mhm.
has something been taken off the market and they're still willing to sell? We're going to start calling the agent. Hey, Susie Smith, our buyer is looking for exactly what your seller had. Are they still interested in listing? Oh my gosh,
Right.
yes. Can you come see it? So that's where we are just boots on the ground. If a list,
Proactive, out of the
yes,
box. Not that,
yes.
I mean, not that that's like no one should be going, "Oh my God, that's so unique." It's just actually implementing it and
But it
actually
is
doing
but
it.
it is unique, and
Yep.
every agent isn't right for every product, and
Mhm.
for me, I will say, "No, thank you, this is not for us, and we are not the best person for this listing." And if you wanna price it really high, if you don't wanna spend money getting it ready for the market, like, if there are certain steps I need you to take and you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not for us. There's also just a type of housing, like, I don't know country living. I don't know things north towards Kentucky. Like, I don't know that land. I don't know that soil. I know the soil around here. I know it's
Mhm.
heavy in bedrock. I know the people that do the percolation tests. Like, I know all that. So that may not be the client for us,
Right.
right? But if you are hungry for business, I was up in Robertson County 5 years ago, right? For $200,000. Like, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to make enough calls, but everybody doesn't have to be for you. And sometimes, like, I tell my agents all the time, they'll say, "Hey, I just had this call with this seller, X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, okay, I'm getting the vibe that they're going to take more time than it might be worth. Could you go get 3 more clients in the time and serve 3 more clients really well in the time that you think this person's going to take up of yours, because they're not willing to get on board with our recommendations, and they're like, every time, yes. And I'm like, okay, I will never tell you not to take a client, you're your own boss,
Mhm.
but let's not waste they're time wasters. They're time wasters. They
You
want all of you all the time. They want your marketing, they want your money, they want to have hour-long phone calls, and they don't want to listen to feedback.
we would you've however you phrased it a few moments ago.
Mhm.
This thought's coming to my mind. If you want to be really efficient, or I think everyone would love that client to call up and say, "Hey, I see that these 2 houses in this subdivision. I want to move over there. My kids are going to that school. We want to move in that neighborhood." Boom, boom. You show them the 2 houses and you have an offer. So in 24 hours, they're making an offer on a house and then it's accepted, and now you're in the process. I think every agent would just like love that,
100%.
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Let's
Um,
go.
the to take a few moments, and obviously you're having that buyer consultation already, finding out what they really want. Maybe they don't
Right.
get that first house, but to find out what they really like, and like you said, go to the expireds, find those houses, whether it's in a
Right.
neighborhood or just general area, or maybe it's the size, whatever the uniqueness is, start to narrow that list down,
Right.
and make the proactive call. Are you still interested in selling? Or maybe it's just someone that has this unique house, and you're like, "Hey, I noticed you guys have been in there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I understand your kids are moved out. You guys ever thought about selling? I got someone who might be interested in the house."
Right.
If you listen to Ricky Caruth,
Yeah.
and
I love
and I mean, he talks about, when I had him on, and obviously in his books, and he talks making all these phone calls to people, going, "Hey, he's just calling people."
right.
And now you're calling people saying, "Hey, I got a buyer. I got someone who wants
Yeah,
to spend money.
exactly. Yeah,
They like what you have. Are you willing to sell it?"
sure.
And if you can, that's obviously, you're matchmakers, right? You match the buyer with their home.
Yep.
You're a matchmaker, and if you can speed up the matchmaking process, get them in process, and then move on to the next person,
Right.
who, for the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. What a proactive way, and great advice. We'd like to think that's simple. Just like I said, there's not enough. If we talked to Ricky Caruth about this, he's like, "I've been doing this for years." But
Right.
like I said, the typical agent is
He's an
not
outlier,
making
right?
those phone calls. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an outlier for a reason.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
And I think always just having your strategy and your why. And I've become really honed in on that. And I keep the team keeps everybody accountable. So that's the value add as the team is like, yes,
Mhm.
we have clients for you to service where you wouldn't have those buyers or sellers, but also like you have multiple people brainstorming all the time. And I've wasted a lot of money in this career, right? We've all wasted a lot of money on marketing or this or that. And so now it's like, okay, let me show you what didn't work for me and what typically doesn't work statistically, and let's save you that money. But also, like, one of my agents was putting together a card to send to a neighborhood. We had been the second agent on it. The first agent for 7 months didn't sell it. And we got in there, we staged it, we priced it appropriately. The first buyer that came wrote an offer, and we were under contract, and we closed in less than 30 days because it was cash. So we look like a hero,
Yes.
right? And so
Brilliant.
she was brilliant. So she was like, we want to, I want to look, I think that I have this other buyer that would have loved this neighborhood. I'm going to send out cards to this neighborhood and see if anybody is willing to sell. And I'm like, that's great. Like, go do that, farm that neighborhood, see who wants to sell. But then she showed me the card that she had done. And it looked like the strategy was to go get listings. And I was like, okay, what's our goal, right? Like, let's bring it back to the goal. Is it to get the listings of the neighborhood so you tell them you sold it in one day after it was on the market for 7 months? Or is it we have a buyer, would you be interested in selling? That's a different talking point. That's a different strategy. So instead of her going to spend $300 on cards that had mixed messaging, we sat there for 5 minutes and really honed it in. And I was like, what's your eventual goal of this? And let's come up with messaging. And we had our marketing director sitting there at the same time. So I think that's where
A
having,
specific call to action is what you
yes,
went at. That's what
what's your
they would
goal?
call that,
Because
right?
it's very confusing. Were you
Yeah.
looking for listings, or were you looking for a townhouse for a buyer to buy? What were you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think all, like, having that, a bunch of people at all times on the team that can, cross collaborate. It's just, it ends up better for our buyers, better for our sellers. We don't waste resources we don't need to. And it's just an overall win.
I the specific because I think we'd all agree most people get those postcards and they may glance at it. Maybe they're
Uh-huh.
enough to see your
Hmm.
picture if you got a great headshot, and it
Hmm.
goes in the trash.
Yep.
Somebody's going to see that. It's going to say, I've got a, basically, they're going to read it in so many words. I've got a buyer for a
Right.
house like yours. And they're going to be like,
Yes.
oh, hold on a second. I was going to
Amazing.
call John to list my house, but you know what? Megan's got a buyer
Right.
already.
Right. Right. Or the house that we sold that I had 4 offers on was in a neighborhood that kind of has stale inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 calls after putting that under contract. After one day, I had 2 calls of people that were like, hey, we've been watching this neighborhood. Nothing's really moving. You sold in one day. And I'm like, yes, I have 4 buyers waiting. If I had 4 more houses, I would have matched everybody with one. I would love to talk about listing your house. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just as easy as that to continue the conversation,
Right. Right. No, it's proactive, out of the box. Um, I want everyone listening here because obviously all of Megan's information is going to be in the show notes, so you can reach out to her.
Yeah, call me anytime. I'm
Not
happy to
Megan
collaborate.
Jernigan in Nashville. She's all on she's on the social medias too, but you
All the
can reach
media.
out to her because we're only touching the ice, touching the skipping across a lot of
Yes.
things that we could go deep on.
Mhm.
We could probably get one subject. I do want to throw out there before because I don't you sort of gestured. I know you have some other great agents on. I would obviously I don't want to build a whole month of the Jernigan team, but if you have someone else on, maybe we'll get them on in late April or something
Yeah,
and spot
yeah,
them on and because you guys are doing it. You're in an area that's I think it's a lot like Jacksonville here. So from a standpoint of people are moving in from all over because
right.
of lower taxes, cost of living, that sort of thing, and the
Yeah.
benefits they see in those areas where well you're landlocked, I'm not, but
Yeah, exactly. That's our downside.
I've
That's
always
our
been on the
downside.
water pretty
I
much
know.
majority of my life,
We have
but
some good lakes, but that's all we got, Tracy. That's all we
yeah,
got.
yeah. I mean, the lakes are fun. Lakes can be
Yeah,
fun.
that's all we got.
I mean, you don't have to worry about sharks and gators in Nashville, but
But we're also only 6 hours to 30A. Like, we're a quick drive
yeah,
down 65, you
yeah.
know?
I
We're a
want you to
quick
finish this.
drive.
I want you this is my last question for you.
Okay.
What do you love about real estate?
Oh, what do I love about it? I love fixing problems before they're problems and having the right people and solution and making this like really stressful time looking ahead 6 steps to where it is no longer stressful,
Mhm.
or as least amount of stressful as possible. I think for me, I see it as this big jigsaw puzzle, and there's all these different pieces that we get to put together and say, "This is not hard, and this doesn't have to be a lot on your plate." And that I think that's my favorite part,
Yeah. I think we're similar in our ways.
especially
But
lenders, yes.
yeah, I mean, we're guiding them through, and people don't, like you said, like you said, your dad only knows what he knows or doesn't know what he doesn't know, and
Poor
that's
thing.
everybody. Everybody's in that category, and they're
Right.
not doing this every day. They don't know. I'm about to have a conversation here in a few minutes about a gentleman. He's not a difficult transaction, but
Yeah.
educate him on the interest rates right now. For some reason, the
Right.
10 and 15 year is not much better than the 30 year. You're not
Isn't
really
that
getting a break
wild?
there.
It's actually worse,
Yes,
right? Isn't
actually,
the
it is.
15
It
year
is
worse?
actually. But how do
Isn't
you
that
explain
crazy?
that to someone?
I know. Isn't that
you know.
crazy?
But we survive on the process, and obviously at the end, them saying thank you, you were awesome, and obviously
Yeah.
hopefully a referral comes from that. That's the ultimate
Yes.
blessing from it, and that's our high. The fact that money falls into our bank account after is just
Yep.
totally awesome,
Well,
right?
that's just how I always tell people, I'm like, if you serve, I tell my agents, I'm like, and that's another thing. I don't hire agents. I don't hire agents looking at the end, right? Like I don't, if you ask me what your paycheck is, or you ask me what the split is, or what this, like, yes, everybody needs to know, but like I'm very transparent on all that, but that's telling me you're here for the wrong reason.
Hmm.
I want somebody that just gets up every day, starts work at 8:30, and they go do the best they can for everyone out there. And then the paycheck is just what happens at the end, right?
Right.
Like if you're
Yeah.
doing a great job and you're providing value and you are servicing your people well, yes, like of course you will. There's no way to not be successful, right? I want you to call me for your gate code. Oh, your people can't get in the neighborhood. What's the gate code? I've got you. And I'm going to respond in 30 seconds. Like, okay, your house is frozen and you are out of town for a week. I'm going to call you and say, I need you to come back in town, or I need you to get a plumber over there, because when this unfreezes and your pipes have burst, you
Hmm.
are going to have a house flood. Like, that's where I need, like, that's where I love to serve. And I
Right.
think if you just serve people well, they will love you back and they will see that you serve them well, and
For
success will
sure.
absolutely just innately happen.
Yep.
Exactly.
Megan, I appreciate you coming on today.
I
I
always
think
love seeing you, Tracy.
I think the video was great, and if anything comes up, you want to get on and do a show, something that can be impactful. But again, like I said, I'll put the offer out. I know you probably have a couple agents that could probably put on a good show, and maybe we get them
Yeah,
scheduled in
they're
the
great.
coming months.
You rock. You
All
rock.
right.
Well, maybe I'll see your wife in 30A. Like I said, we're trying
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
tickets sell out fast every year. I knew I should have gotten them quick, but I paused, and then yesterday we were on the wait list. So I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But
I
the team wants
appreciate
to go
you.
to
You have a
30A.
super day. I'm
You
going to get
too.
this out as quickly as possible. So today's
Okay.
Friday. I'm going to hopefully get my guy to turn it around and get it out on air on Monday. All right.
I always love seeing you. Have a great
All
weekend.
right. Thank you. You have a great day.
Get on the
Thanks.
boat. Bye, Tracy.